And a good evening to everybody out there. Welcome to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. I am your host, Richard Holdridge, and I am live on Facebook and live on YouTube. And I've got a great show because this is going to be the first time that I've done this. I'm going to have multiple guests on the show. And starting things off is definitely a friend of the show. He's been on several times, Phillip Jordan, who's really got a lot of stuff going on. Catch him on the Weekend Blitz. It's a brand new show. You could hear it Saturday mornings, a 2-hour show. Phillip, you do a lot of high school stuff in the Dothan area with the Wiregrass Sports Report. Phillip, how's it going?
Richard's going good. It's a good time. We are less than 5 weeks away from college football. I am counting week 0. High school football, at least for me, for the Dothan Wolves. Our first broadcast is on the 24th of August when they play the Carroll High Eagles. So it's good times. We've almost made it to the to traditional football season. So it's good, and I'm always thrilled to come on your show.
I appreciate that. And this week, next week, last week we had SEC Media Days. We're currently having the Sun Belt Conference Media Days. I know you're dealing with Troy, the Trojans down there, as they're looking to predict to finish first in the SBC this year. And, we got ACC Media Days going on. Just a lot of media days. We get a better picture of how the college football season is going to look like. You in Dothan, Alabama, you deal with Alabama and Auburn. And right now, Hugh Freeze, brand new coach in Auburn. There's a lot of uncertainty, but Hugh Freeze does have a track record of recruiting well and playing Nick Saban in big games. I remember Ole Miss beat Alabama in 14 and 15 back-to-back. And a lot of people think that this is Alabama's down year, but don't tell that to Nick Saban. He doesn't want to hear the rat poison like he mentions. On SEC Media Days, we know that Bama recruits. Their quarterback situation is up in the air. I still love their defense. I think that Dallas Turner is going to be Will Anderson 2.0, and then Kool-Aid McKinstry is the best cover corner in all of college football.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Talking about SEC Media Days last week, Nick Saban seemed really upbeat last week in the main room when he talked to the media, talking about his trip to Italy with Miss Terry, where they were getting Roll Tide left and right. I don't know about that. I think Nick Saban may have been exaggerating a little bit. I don't know how many people in Italy watch college football, Richard, but hey, if he got Roll Tide, good for him. And Hugh Freeze, I think I saw Hugh Freeze was the shortest of the opening statements, and he took the questions. What was interesting with Hugh Freeze, he talked about alignment from President Roberts to AD John Cohen down to him. That's not something Auburn people are used to, alignment from top to bottom. We'll see how long that lasts. I think a lot of people are positive and happy with Hugh Freeze so far. I feel like he is bringing the Auburn family back together. It was fractured under Brian Harsin. So, that's and you bring up Alabama. I've got questions. I think defensively they're going to be good. You mentioned, you got Dallas Turner. I think their running game is going to be great, but quarterback and wide receiver. And for Auburn, too, I think Auburn's got those questions, too. Alabama's more talented, and they're still one of the most talented teams in the country. But at the same time, quarterback and receivers, that's two positions I'll have in common with Alabama and Auburn. I've got questions about going into the season. So it's going to be interesting. I think both coaches are upbeat. They're excited. They're kind of looking forward to the season, but also a lot of questions to be answered for both those teams too.
Well, since we're on the subject of college football, Jim Harbaugh, he's going to await his suspension. It looks like he's going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the season for lying to the NCAA. You just don't do that, Phillip. But this happened during the COVID year. It is a minor infraction, but he is going to serve a suspension, which really, in the grand scheme of things, means nothing because their first 4 games are cupcake games anyway. I know that Urban Meyer served a suspension with Ohio State about the covering up one of his assistants with some assault charges and domestic violence. And, he was covering that up. He got that suspension, but the interim coach was Ryan Day, and he actually did a pretty good job, and Ohio State didn't skip a beat. I expect Michigan to do the same. And here's a scenario for you, Phillip, because I think Michigan's going to not only beat Ohio State for the 3rd straight time, they're also going to go undefeated and make it into the college football playoff. Here's another scenario. Let's say USC goes undefeated because Caleb Williams, very talented. I know you like Utah, but I think maybe USC might get over the hump and defeat Utah. Let's say Florida State defeats LSU opening week. They're capable. I think Jordan Travis and Jalen Daniels, it's going to be a great matchup. Florida State's more than capable of beating LSU. Let's say Florida State runs the table, wins the ACC, and they go undefeated. How about another scenario for you, Phillip? What if the Texas Longhorns beat the Alabama Crimson Tide, run the table, go undefeated, win the conference in the Big 12? You got 4 undefeated teams at the end of the regular season and a one-loss SEC conference champion. Who gets into the college football playoff?
The one-loss SEC team is going to get in there. So you laid out Texas, Florida State, Michigan,
USC, and Michigan
as undefeated.
All undefeated.
So I think the question is here, which team would the one-loss SEC team jump? Because I do believe the one-loss SEC team would get it, particularly if a team came from the West. If it's Alabama or LSU because the tougher road. But if Georgia had one loss, are you keeping the defending national champion, the 2-time defending national champions out? But
who would you leave out?
I would probably leave out USC
because the Pac-12 and their conference.
Because I think the Big 12 is going to be interesting. And Texas, look, I'm trying not to get too excited about what's on paper with Texas. Texas is pretty good. They've got a lot of talent on the team. I mean, yeah, they got to replace Bijan Robinson, but they pretty much got right back. They're good at receiver. Xavier Worthy is back. They've got A.D. Mitchell coming in from Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
I think, and Quentin Ewers, he's getting a lot of hype going into the season. Look, if he doesn't get hurt against Alabama last year, they might beat Alabama because he was lighting Alabama's defense up.
Oh, absolutely.
But they do go to Tuscaloosa, and that's a big thing. So, but but the thing is, Richard, the problem with Texas, they are good when they play the elite teams. They play well. They don't always win, but they play well. It's when they lose to these middle of the pack Big 12 teams. That's where they usually stump their toe. But yeah, I think I would leave USC out because I just look at that conference. I think Oregon's going to be good. I think Washington's going to be good. And I like Utah. But my problem with too is the middle of the pack and the bottom of the pack. I don't think it's that good. I think the Big 12 has some interesting teams. Kansas State should be good. Oklahoma State, let's see what Oklahoma can bounce back. TCU, I don't think is a team that everybody's going to say, oh, look what they lost. That was a Cinderella story. I think that's a good team. Not a championship team, but a good team. The Big Ten is like the SEC, just that name. You beat Ohio State end of the year. You probably, in your undefeated Big Ten, you're going to get in. And here's the thing with Florida State. If they're undefeated, Richard, if you're telling me that Florida State goes undefeated, you know what you're telling me? You're telling me they beat Clemson twice.
Yes.
Because that's a 2-team race. Look, I like Drake May. He's one of my favorite college quarterbacks to watch. Their receivers deal, I don't think they're going to be good as defensively. I think they're maybe the third best team. I think there's a drop off between Florida State, Clemson, and then North Carolina. So just when I look at all those other conferences and then the SEC is the SEC, I think USC would be the one that didn't make it.
Well, I appreciate you answering my question because I sent that exact same question to the Late Kick podcast with Josh Pate, and it did not get in the show. But well.
You did not make it to Pate State, but Phillip George University answered the question.
Absolutely. Well, you know that Pate State is growing like nothing we have ever seen coming out of Columbus. I mean, Josh Pate right now, in my opinion, is one of the top voices of college football.
The grind is a blessing.
The grind is a blessing. Yeah. So you and I are alike. We both follow Josh Pate. We look at like what
he's not my favorite college football guy, but he's up there. He's up.
Oh,
there.
Who's your favorite?
Andy Staples.
Andy Staples. I'll have to check him out.
Yes.
I know one thing. My favorite analyst who's no longer going to be on College Game Day is David Pollack. I'm sad that ESPN let him go. I think that David Pollack is going to get grabbed somewhere, whether it's 24/7 Sports, Fox Sports. Somebody is going to get David Pollack because he is one of the best analysts in the business.
Yeah, I mean, or at least somebody like jump on. He could go somewhere and do a podcast somewhere because I think it'd be
Oh
very
yeah,
successful. And one, the positivity that he comes with. I mean, obviously, a man of great faith,
yes.
um, and just he's a good analyst. And how many people are actually gutsy enough to say what he said at the national championship game, the pregame, with Nick Saban sitting right next to you, saying
Oh,
that
that was
Georgia has
incredible.
taken over? Nick Saban was like that had to like bother him so bad. So David Pollock is afraid of no one. So that was another thing. I had great respect for him because Richard, a lot of guys could have at that moment just kind of like, okay, I'm going to respect Saban. I'm not going to say anything to kind of poke the bear. But David Pollock, he's not afraid. But hey, this is a guy that's one of the best defensive linemen in SEC history. I still
Yes.
remember the strip sack he did against South Carolina. That was a baseball score of a game. I still remember watching that. I think that was back 2000, 2001. Of course, the NFL thing didn't happen, work out for him because of the injury. But yeah, I think whoever gets him is going to get a tremendous analyst.
Phillip, I was doing my research. I was reading some articles in the SEC. Can you guess which are the top SEC quarterbacks coming into this year? We're ranked the quarterbacks 1 through 14. Who's number one?
It's interesting you asked me this because upcoming at Last Word College Football, I will be ranking the top 5 returning SEC quarterbacks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I wrote the list down last night and I looked at it and actually I wrote I've got most of them wrote down on my paper right here.
Yeah, I got it too.
I didn't now. So my list doesn't have all of them because I didn't put Alabama, Auburn's in there just because they're not returning quarterbacks, more likely going to be starters, and they just have new guys. So I was just kind of narrowed down top 5. So can I cop out of that and just give you candidates for the top 5?
Sure.
KJ Jefferson's got to be up there. And I'll tell you this, I wrote that same article last year for Last Word. I got a lot of positive feedback, except from Arkansas fans, because I did not have KJ Jefferson in my top 5 of the
Wow.
quarterbacks last year. Jaden Daniels, look, and just coming out of SEC Media Days, he was picked first team All SEC quarterback. So that's a guy I think. Will Rogers probably won't make the list. Just being
Interesting,
honest.
because according to College Football Network, Will Rogers is number 1 according to this list. But you have different reporters from different sides of SEC country that could be biased. This could be a reporter in Starkville that's saying, "Oh, Will Rogers is number 1."
Now
I
this guy will not make my top 5. So I give a little tease for this weekend in the weekend blitz. One of my guests, this is a already recorded interview that will play on Saturday. Chris Gordy, host of Locked On SEC. He was when we were having our conversation. He told me that he has talked to people at Vanderbilt, and he says this on the show. So this is out there. It will be out there that they have told him that AJ Swan reminds them of Jay Cutler.
Wow. From Vanderbilt.
And he still got Spencer Rattler. He's up and down. I think that's a guy you could put up there.
I think he's a top 5.
Joe Milton. Look, if he's got his accuracy down, look out. Tennessee's going to be just as good as they were with Hendon Hooker. Look, Carson Beck. He's got a lot of talent around him. I mean, if him or Vandergriff.
This list has got Carson Beck ranked 13. He's actually ranked lower than Graham Mertz from Florida.
Oh, Richard,
I know.
To go there. You had to go there with me. I am not a believer in Graham Mertz. Look,
but this list thinks that Graham Mertz is number 12. Right above Carson Beck.
He's number 1 to throw interceptions. I mean, that'll be one of the main things for him. Look, I watched him play at Wisconsin. He has tools to be really good. He has the ability. But I've seen this guy fall under pressure so many times in so many big games. Wisconsin, they're in the game fourth quarter, and he throws a bunch of interceptions. I mean, he even had, not last year, but the year before that, he had more interceptions than touchdowns. I mean, he throws interceptions. And Florida is still a rebuilding team. I just, Florida, to me, is going to struggle to get 6 wins. I don't think they're going to be good.
I think so, too.
I don't think they're going to be good. I'll tell you another one that could end up being good this year. Connor Wegman, the Texas A&M quarterback. They've got talent. We know that at A&M, but the key of this is how does Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino coexist? I think Jimbo Fisher said last week at media days, he said something about, I hope Bobby Petrino calls the plays. I'm like, you're the coach. You should know who's calling the plays. I just wonder, Richard, how's that going to work at A&M? But anyways,
yeah.
There's my
you think it might be? Well, you might think it'd be a power struggle between Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher, like what Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin for Alabama.
I think it's a little bit worse because at least Nick Saban had a few national championships under his belt. I mean, Jimbo Fisher's only got to one when he rode the coattails of Jameis Winston for 2 years. You take away Jameis Winston from Jimbo Fisher, he's an 8-4 football coach.
I agree.
That's what he is. I mean, the record shows it. If you were to look at his record without Jameis, I think Jimbo Fisher is probably one of the most overrated coaches in the country. But he gets looked at a certain way because he won that one national championship. Hey, Gene Chislett got a national championship. I mean, Larry Coker's got a national championship. We don't look at those guys as some of the best of all time. So he's not on the level of a Nick Saban, a Kirby Smart, a Dabo Sweeney. He's not. So I think there could be issues because look, Bobby Petrino is a former head football coach. I mean, he's been a head coach at several different places
and had success.
Yes, his offense works. Look, we can say a lot of things. There's a lot of people out there who do not like Bobby Petrino, as his personality can be off-putting. I think that's why he kind of doesn't work in the long run as a head coach, because I think his message, his personality weighs on a team. But we know what this man can do as a play caller. I mean, he's one of the best. I think, was it last year? Missouri, was it Missouri State he was at? They played Arkansas last year. I think they came close to beating them. He threw
very close. I do remember that game.
They threw for over 300 yards on Arkansas. And I know Arkansas last year was not one of the better pass defenses in the SEC or the country, but still, you're looking at an FCS team lighting up a decent, the solid SEC team. So we know what Bobby Petrino is capable of. If Jimbo Fisher stays out of his way, which I have a hard time believing he will do, A&M could be really good, but we'll see. I'm not saying that can't work. I just want to see it work.
Also, some quarterbacks that we forgot to mention. Devin Leary, the transfer from NC State at Kentucky, and Jackson Dart with Lane Kiffin's office at Ole Miss. Just some quarterbacks to think about. Not a Jackson Dart fan. I understand.
I'm not on the same level as Graham Mertz, but I look at him last year whenever Ole Miss's run game was being slowed down and the game got put on his arm, he kind of wasn't able to deliver. But I've seen so many stuff where people believe that Jackson Dart's going to be the starter at Ole Miss. And, Spencer Sanders coming from Oklahoma State. Like, why did you do that? You got Walker Howard as the transfer from LSU coming in. I don't know. We'll see what Lane, which of course Lane Kiffin was probably one of the highlights of media days last week.
All right. So Phillip, I got to ask you, this whole college football season, if there is one game that you can sit down on the couch and watch from start to finish, what is that game going into the college football season?
Wow. What game am I looking forward to?
I'll make it easier for you. What non-conference game are you looking forward to? Because you could easily say the Iron Bowl.
I actually wasn't going to go there. I was not going to go Iron Bowl with that one. I actually was probably going to lean Alabama LSU. That was going to be, because I think that's going to be the game that determines the West.
It does. Yeah, I agree.
You know what? This may come out as a cop out, but I'm looking at week one. Man, LSU, Florida State. Just those are two teams that people are thinking of as national title playoff contending teams. I mean, and I think I said it last time on the show. If I didn't, I'll say it here. I said it all over social media last week. Lost a couple of Twitter followers over this comment, by the way, that I think LSU is going to win the SEC West. And I said that is not a prediction. That is a spoiler. I'm very confident in LSU. But LSU and Florida State, that is going to be so big on that Sunday night, week one. And it's not an eliminated game for either one.
Not at all.
But you look at it, you got to run the table. Because when you look at what LSU's got to do in the SEC West, and then, okay, if you run through the SEC rest of the schedule, you only have one loss, then more than likely playing Georgia in Atlanta. So that's a tough one. And for Florida State, that game is huge. I think they need that win because a couple of weeks later in September, they play Clemson. Florida State has three possibilities after the first month. 4-0, maybe 3-1. You split those two big games, or they could be 2-2 going 0-2 against those two teams. So honestly, I'm looking forward to that one. I think that's probably a bigger game than Florida State now as I think about the whole thing I just said.
Phillip, I know that you're excited. I cannot wait for college football. I also cannot wait for high school football. You do a lot of stuff with the Dothan Wolves down in Dothan, Alabama. I've been doing a countdown on my show. We are 24 days away from high school football, and I'm really counting that first regular season game in Georgia on August the 17th because, a lot of these high school teams have their scrimmages. In fact, today and tomorrow is going to be media days for all the teams in East Alabama up in Opelika. And I know that, do they have like media days for high school for the Dothan Wolves?
Yeah, they usually do a thing down here where all the coaches would get together. I never can go to it because of my day job. But yeah, they usually do like a media days. But hey, and no offense to any of the reporters that are covering that, but doing media days over on the Wiregrass High School Football Report, knocking out some interviews with some coaches. I didn't get one this past week, so I'll pick up slack and do another one next week. But yeah, they have something they do down here in Dothan, which is Dothan. I think Enterprise usually there too, because the Dothan, the Wiregrass area is such a big area. You may actually see Early County there too, because Early County is a school
right there in Georgia. Yeah,
it gets covered a lot in this area too as well. So yeah, they got
Eufaula. Does Eufaula get covered in the Wiregrass area?
They do on TV and the paper. I'm trying to think, do they usually go to that or not?
All right, so here's the thing. We consider Eufaula part of the Chattahoochee Valley. The Wiregrass area is just on the outskirts of the Chattahoochee Valley. That includes schools like Charles Henderson, like Rehoboth, like Dothan, like Enterprise, like Baker, St. Paul's Episcopal, all those schools down in South Alabama. I think that's with that. I don't know. I'm kind of have a broad Wiregrass area, but Dothan opens the season on August the 24th against Carroll. So hope you have fun.
Yeah, they opened against them last year. Carroll's a 5A school, really well coached by Patrick Plott. I mean, one of the better coaches in this area. Has had success in the past at other places. That'd be interesting. Dothan's a 7A, they're a 5A school. I'll tell you what's interesting. So last year, the first half of the season, Dothan was on the road a lot. So it's reversed this year. They have 4 of the first 5 games are at home, and then 4 of their last 5 are on the road. But so the first 5, and I'm drawing a blank on who that 5th team they play is. But after that, they will go on the road 4 straight games before they close out the season at home against Jeff Davis. They play Central,
Opelika.
They got to go to Enterprise,
and Baker.
Yeah, Baker. Now. I don't know what your audience, but there were some people down in Dothan that thought last year when Dothan played Baker, they're playing the school from Florida. No. That's the Baker over near Mobile. So Dothan will have to make that trip, that 3-hour trip to Mobile. I won't because I will be in the friendly. You'll
be back at the studio. I know
in the friendly confines of the 96.9, the Legend studio. So.
Should be a lot of fun. Dothan made the playoffs last year, hoping to duplicate that for this upcoming season. And I definitely would love to have you back on when we get ready to have high school football, and especially when Dothan takes on Central, Smith Station, Auburn, Opelika, all the teams in the Chattahoochee Valley. Would love to have you on so we could preview that game. As you know, Phillip, I do have a high school football show. I also do a Georgia, Alabama Sports Live with Thrift Behringer. We're going to be live streaming a lot of games. We're also going to have a weekly show dedicated to covering high school football in the Chattahoochee Valley. Should be a lot of fun. I thank you so much for being here on the show, Phillip. But we are up against the clock. So I hope you have a great rest of your night. I'm looking forward to having you back on the show next week as we can talk some more college football and get ready for the college football season.
I'm always here for it, Richard, and I appreciate you having me on.
All right, that was Phillip Jordan. You can catch his debut of the Weekend Blitz this Saturday on YouTube from 8 to 10. So you're going 2 hours, and you got some pretty cool guests lined up. Just before I let you go, just tell the audience about your upcoming show this weekend.
So it is called the Weekend Blitz, 2 hours. It's not just a football show. You may get that vibe after the first one, but we'll jump into the sports when time permits it. But yeah, I can 100% confirm you will hear from Chris Gordy from Locked On SEC. And I've got some cool other guests, but I don't like to say the guest name until we've actually talked and everything, because you never know, people's life get busy, something might happen. But I got some pretty cool guests coming up for the first episode. So the first episode, there will be a YouTube channel for. I haven't got the links to podcast links or anything up ready to go yet. I hope to have that by Wednesday. But just keep an eye out social media at PJordanSEC. And I will post all those links when the show is, where you can go subscribe on YouTube and on the audio platform as well.
Can't wait to hear it. Thanks again, Phillip, for being on the show.
All right. Anytime, Richard.
All right. One guest down, and we got another couple of guests coming up, and I am excited about my next two guests, as they are the founders of Fountain City FC. But before I get them on the show, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I will have the founders of Fountain City FC right here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. You don't want to go anywhere. We are back here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. I'm so glad you're able to join me, because joining me on the show is one of the founders of Fountain City FC. And I see I got his logo in the background, and it is Jose Perez. Welcome to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, making your debut. I know that I also talked to your partner. I'm looking to see if he's actually there. Gage Joyner supposed to be joining us pretty soon. And Jose, welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming in great.
Okay, perfect.
I'm excited that you're on the show. Before we get into Fountain City FC, tell us about your soccer background. Are you from Columbus? How old were you when you first started playing soccer?
Sure. So I've been playing soccer as long as I can remember. As a kid, maybe 4 years old or so, just kind of kicking around with my dad. I didn't really play competitively until, I would say, middle school or so. Yeah, probably didn't really get involved with that kind of stuff until middle school. I used to play around the neighborhood a lot. There was a lot of subdivisions that kind of were around mine, and we would have like little scrimmages, like my subdivision versus your subdivision. I played in the Boys and Girls Club at the time, and then I took a hiatus from playing at that, at any kind of level, really, other than pickup soccer, until I was in college, actually. And then I played lots of intramurals there. I've been playing Sunday League pretty much as long as I can remember. And then there's a team in Savannah that I actually played for while I was in grad school called Savannah Clovers. They used to be the UPSL, and now they're NISA. They're NISA, so they've kind of moved up in the ladder. And I mean, ever since then, I've always kind of had my foot in the door, I guess you could say, when it comes to playing soccer. Yeah.
Well, Gage, thank you for joining the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. I know that same question to you. Where did your soccer experience begin, and how long have you lived in Columbus? Have you been born and raised in Columbus as well?
Yeah. So, hey, Richard, it's good to be here. Yeah, I was born in Phoenix City. Born and raised Phoenix City. When you live in Phoenix City, you kind of live in Columbus too. So yeah, I was born here. Been playing soccer since I was around 5 years old. My dad coached me a lot growing up. Played, in select programs coming up as well. I played for the River City Rangers as I was coming up around, I guess 11, 12 years old. That was great. I was always a keeper. That was my main position. We won state, and then we got runner-up the year before that. So that was really cool. As I got more into high school, I played a little bit like in junior high. Freshman year, I made the team. I had to quit playing because of work. I had to start working, so stopped playing. Recently, kind of picked it back up in the last couple of years. Kind of managing teams, helping build teams, getting teams together for tournaments, things like that. And so I've kind of built kind of rapport around the area with great players. I think that they trust me to get them together. So yeah, now we're here.
We definitely are here. We do have an outdoor soccer team in Columbus. It's called Fountain City FC, and they are scheduled to play in the United Premier Soccer League in 2024. Gentlemen, I've got to ask you, how did this come about? Where did the idea of getting a professional outdoor soccer team in the Fountain City come from?
Well, it's funny you should ask that, actually, because we have a group chat with a bunch of our friends that we kind of play soccer with in the area with, and somebody had brought up a post that I had made. There's also a pickup soccer page for Columbus. It's got like 1,000 something people. And they just kind of, we organize little pickup games and stuff in the afternoons, kind of like a fun thing to do after work. And once upon a time, I think it was like 3 years ago, UPSL Georgia division actually started, and they had, made a post on Facebook. And I remember I screenshot that and I put it in the group, and I said something along the lines of like, man, it would be so cool if Columbus had something like this, maybe in the future we can get a group of people to put it together. And I mean, we didn't at the time. And then, 3 years later, here we are. It was actually, I think, Gage who brought it up and was like, you remember this? And we actually ended up commenting on it on Facebook and kind of brought it back up to the surface. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, look at that. It's always kind of been something that we've talked about, honestly. It's always something that we visit, oh man, we should really look into doing that. We should really, look into doing that. And then finally, I would say, Gage was kind of like, why don't we do it? And I was like, all right, let's do it. So we did it basically.
Yeah, with the connection of the players that we got, Richard, honestly, it's been a smoother process than we thought. We said, hey, we've been playing in these Sunday leagues. There's no type of team like this in Columbus. There's talent here. And the thing is, there's so much talent here that's hidden. I feel like there's nowhere for these players to go. And a lot of the guys that we have now that train with us, we have so many talented players that were, just hidden. For an example, we've got a guy that is a striker for us now. I've noticed him while he was playing at the CASA, co-ed league. So there's guys out there like that are just playing in these little co-ed Wednesday leagues that are the material to be a semi-professional player, and they're just not being looked at, And now we're here seeing all the players in Columbus. We've had a lot of people reach out to us, so it's been great. And so, yeah.
Well, there's plenty of soccer talent in the Fountain City, not just on the men's side, but on the women's side. And, a historic moment that happened in 2021 was the birth of the NISL and indoor soccer, which when you're an outdoor player, you make that transition to the indoor game. The Columbus Rapids came into existence. And that's how we have that connection. I am the voice of the Columbus Rapids for the past 2 seasons. And as much as I love the outdoor game and the indoor game, and they're both very different, I got to call some of the Columbus State women's soccer team, and that is definitely the outdoor game. And I know that with your outdoor game, Fountain City, playing in the UPSL next year, what are some of the venues you're looking at to where you can get fans to attend some of the games?
Yeah, so we've thought about that. There's a ton of different venues, available. We were wanting to look at Columbus State University. Of course, Walden Soccer Complex is like, the dream field for every, soccer team here. I don't think we were able to get that field, unfortunately. I think right now we're working with Muskogee County to see about maybe getting Otis Spencer Stadium to be our home stadium. I know they just put millions of dollars into that complex, and it seats thousands of people. It's got a great, it's a great complex. It's got everything we would need to be able to host our games there. So that's what we're really trying to do. And I think it is the only soccer field in Columbus that actually is a full width field. All the other fields are shorter in width, and there's rules and regulations on field size. Not all the other ones would be fine, but having that real size, full width soccer field and having that brand new stadium, that would just be, the perfect setup for us, I think.
Do you have a schedule yet for the 2024 season? We know there's some other teams in the Chattahoochee Valley. They're going to be playing in the UPSL, to include Legends FC, who just finished. They're actually wrapping up their season right now. But also a Columbus Elite. FC is another team in Columbus trying to start up. And then you also have UMA FC. I mean, I think that there's a possibility where you could build some rivalries between these teams.
Definitely, yeah. We don't have a schedule yet. They haven't released it. I think it's because there's still a window open for teams to register. So we might even see more teams get added in the meantime. But until then, we are just kind of keeping ourselves busy playing friendlies against established teams in the area and also against teams in Atlanta. In fact, we've got a friendly this Sunday against Atlanta Athletic FC in Atlanta. So I think they're a Premier League team. So they're one division above us. So it should be a fun time. Yeah, it's insane how quickly there's been an explosion of soccer growth in our area. I feel like it was not too long ago that we were all super excited about Columbus Rapids indoor season starting, and the fact that we could actually get something like that in Columbus. And then, as you said, next thing you know, we've got Legends FC, we've got UMA, and then UMA specifically, they've done excellent. And I think that's just a testament to the level of talent that we've actually got in this area. I feel like people overlook us because Atlanta's right there and they've got tons of talent. But as Gage was saying earlier, there's so much talent here that, it's incredible. It's incredible to see. And I think that's one of our major goals, is just to get all of those excellent players together in one spot and show those teams in Atlanta, like, hey, don't overlook Columbus. You know what I'm saying?
When it comes to recruiting, we have the club teams here in Columbus. We have CYSC and we have Concord Fire South. Are you looking ahead, like years down the road, seeing the talent coming out of these club teams and the local club teams like Sousa and Auburn, Harris County Soccer? There's just a lot of club teams in the Chattahoochee Valley where there's just some hidden gems, some talented players.
Yeah, I think definitely going forward, those clubs here that are local would be great to have to pick from, really, Richard. A lot of those kids, sometimes it's iffy, I'd say, because a lot of those kids want to go the college route, of course, to go to school and further their education. But there's a lot of kids that don't get those soccer scholarships, that don't get to go to college. I'd say more than I'd say maybe 25% may go to college or less. It's a really small fraction. So I think the rest of those kids that are really talented and that want to pursue soccer after they graduate high school, maybe college isn't for them, and they're local to the area, then they can continue. They can come try out for our club and be showcased a different way. And so I think other teams, they utilize a lot of young players, and that's a way to, I guess, kind of show colleges, they go to showcases and things like that. I'm follow UMA on Facebook. I see their coach has a lot of different programs that they go to and things like that. And it looks like some of their players get picked up by different colleges. So it's really nice to see that.
I'd like to add to that too. So we've got two coaches who used to, I think that, they still do. They're still involved with the youth academies here, but Coach Mario and Coach Sean, first of all, they're excellent, real good coaches. But they've also, along with us, we've kind of put one of our goals to also get some of those younger kids who are talented involved with our team. So a couple names come to mind. We've got this kid Brian, Dane. There was another kid out there. I think he was 15 or 16. His name was Alan. He was real composed out there. And I think Brian specifically, we actually brought him out against a team in Atlanta. So he played with us against MOBA, and also our goalkeeper Malachi. He's pretty young too, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Andres.
Oh yeah, and then Andres, I just see Andres as one of us because he's been coming out every single day. So yeah, Andres, he starts regularly. So we definitely want to try to get the youth involved, have them, come out there and join us, because they are the future. We're only getting older, and like you were saying, it's amazing. Some of those kids are just unreal. The level of technique that they have at such a young age. So it is incredible. So we really want to get them linked up with us.
Gentlemen, I've got to ask you, where can I pick up Fountain City FC merch?
So we're working really closely right now with a brand called Diaza Football that do kits for soccer teams. They do a lot of kits. I think majority of it is UPSL, and they do really great kits. I think we've had a couple photos we've put out of our home kit that we're going to have. We've got an away kit, and we've got some keeper kits as well that we haven't unveiled yet that we're designing. And so it's really cool to be able to do that. Once I think we partner with Diaza and get our kits through them, they'll have a home merch on their website. They'll have a tab that has all our team info on it, and it'll have a shop specifically designed for our team. They have the jerseys. They'll have jackets, shirts, even the goalie kits sometimes are on there that are open for anybody to go on there. You can get them customized with your name on them, and so that'll be really cool. We'll have a shop on Diaza. We're looking forward to that partnership.
Also, when it comes to getting a professional team together, a lot goes into it. Especially with all the facilities and paying for everything and getting to be at a venue where you have to pay a fee to play there. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take sponsorship. It's going to take support from people who just love soccer in this area. Tell my audience how they could support Fountain City FC, whether it's being a sponsor or donating money. Like, what can they do to make sure that your team has the funds to be able to play in the UPSL in 2024?
So we have a sponsorship proposal that we put together. It's around 20 pages or so. It's got our history of our team, what our goals are. It's got information about the UPSL. It's got information about other teams in the league. And we have different sponsorship levels actually that we're offering right now. They range anywhere, I don't know if I want to put a price out there, but $500, as an entry sponsorship for our club. And, we have so much to offer. The different price programs, they offer so many different things. We're working closely with someone that does the live broadcasting for the team. So there's a ton of different availabilities for sponsors. You've got banners, you've got PA announcements at the games. You've got, the most importantly really is the logo on the jersey. And we have different sponsorship levels to offer those, a front of the jersey, back of the jersey, sleeve. So like I said, we've got so many different options, and we'd love to be able to work with local businesses here as much as we can. and build those connections and really help each other out. You know, by following our Instagram, that helps a lot. We've been able to gain almost 600 followers now on our social media, and I think almost 300 on Facebook. And we reach, I don't know, on average, I think 30,000 people a month or so just from our Instagram now. So you know, it's really growing, and we have had a lot of support from the community so far, and I'm really looking forward to, you know, the different businesses that we can work with to make those, you know, relationships happen.
I actually had a proposal for you, gentlemen. Tell me if you think you're interested in this. We would have to get the Columbus Rapids on board. Your team would have to get used to playing indoor soccer, but I see a friendly between the Columbus Rapids and Fountain City FC in the Civic Center in the near future.
Oh yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, I think. It'd be nice to, you know, get a break from being out in the sun and play indoors for once.
Yeah.
But that means your team would have to get used to playing indoor soccer. I mean, are they capable of doing that? I mean, it's a pretty easy transition. You know, I used to rollerblade and play ice hockey. I mean, I used to play street hockey and I knew how to rollerblade. So that means I could play ice hockey. I mean, same thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference, like you highlighted earlier. A lot of our guys, we actually met them playing in the local adult league. And that's like 6v6. So we are used to playing small sided, and our coaches really emphasize on coaching us in tight spaces, which is sometimes very difficult for certain positions. But I think what would take some getting used to is using that wall, you know, because we're just not used to using that. And having watched the Columbus Rapids several times in the past, some of those guys make real good use of that wall. You know, you think that they're in a tight spot, there's no way they can get out, and then they like backheel it off the corner down the wing, and they're out just like that. And there's a counterattack. So that would definitely be an interesting situation for us.
All right, gentlemen, before we close out this show, is there anything else that you would like to add about Fountain City FC?
Richard, I guess I'd just like to add that, you know, and we really appreciate all the support that we've gotten. You know, we made this club, you know, for the city. We wanted to make this club a club that the city could support and the fans could really get behind. We have a lot of friendlies coming up that we've planned. We have some events coming up. Thanks to Mimi Woodson, we're going to have a booth at the Tri-City Latino Festival. So we're going to be there having a booth. So that's going to be really awesome. We're trying to work on having a home match for our team sometime next month, or maybe later in this month in August. So really looking forward to that. Like I said, tryouts are August 5th at Midland Academy. Anybody who's interested can sign up on our Instagram. We have a form they can fill out, and there's payment options there. They have to fill out that form to be able to come. There's waivers and things like that associated, you know, with doing a tryout. But yeah, we're really looking forward to see everybody at the tryout. It's been really a great success. We've had it up for a little less than a week, and we've got a ton of people that have filled it out. So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and just to kind of reinforce what Gage was saying, this team really is for the community. You know, in fact, as part of our player contract, there's a volunteer clause where our players are going to have to volunteer in some way in the community. In fact, we aren't even though we haven't even had tryouts yet, we're already doing that. We've volunteered at different things. For example, first thing that comes to mind is Corta. They had a tennis event, and we had a handful of us go out there to help with that. So I guess for any businesses, you know, if you guys are willing to help us, that's incredible. Or even if you guys need help with some event, let us know, and we'll get a group of guys out there to help you guys. Just, you know, reach out. We're friendly guys. We routinely check the email. We routinely check our Instagram. We try to be real active on that. So if you guys need anything from us, we're there to help, you know.
Gentlemen, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule talking about Fountain City FC. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. And I'm looking forward to seeing outdoor soccer in Columbus in some friendlies this year, but then playing in the UPSL in 2024.
Thank you so much for having us, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, that was the founders of Fountain City FC, Jose Perez and Gage Joyner. Thank you so much. Yeah, he's showing the logo there. That's awesome. Yes, we've been making sure that we share that logo so the people in the community know exactly what it looks like. But just thank you so much for listening to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Don't forget that we are broadcasted on WQEE 99.1 FM out of Noonan, Monday through Friday from 2 to 3. You could also catch a replay of this interview on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again, gentlemen, and we will talk to you later. Good night, everybody.